All right. It's good to see you guys again, you all. It's good to be out there just day one. And, it's the first day of spring practice. You don't have pads on, but I love the clean, the efficiency of practice. There wasn't a lot of guys on the ground. I look back to last year's first practice in the spring, and we're having to teach guys really the standards and how to practice this year. The guys really did a great job of just executing. So it was a good, clean day today. And I got a couple things just since the last time I met with you. Yeah, injury updates. Guys that won't be practicing in the spring are Kevin Ballman, Mitchell Evans, Aiden Gabira, Armel Mookum, and Logan Thomas. And then we've had some staff updates. Since we last got together, Max Bullen now is our linebackers coach, and he's doing an unbelievable job. Has earned that right to be the linebackers coach, and I really look forward to see what he does with this unit. Mike Mickens now is the defensive backs coach. He'll be responsible for the entire back end. Now he will have help. Marty Biaggi will take on some assistant DB duties. He'll help Coach Mickens in the back end, and Chad Bowden will now be the assistant AD for player personnel / general manager at a lot of different places. But our title, we call it here, is assistant AD for player personnel. And then Dre Brown will move up into Chad's spot as the director of recruiting. So just want to address that to start and then open up for questions.
Front row on your right, Eric Hansen.
Coach, how you doing?
Good.
I think a lot of people have questions about how the offensive line is going to evolve over spring practice and so forth. What are your expectations with that group? What do you need to see this spring, and how open are those positions?
I think you have some guys that have started games. Even Charles Jagasaw started a game. But you try to create as much competition as you can, especially in the spring. We know we have to solidify positions as we go into the fall, but we want it to be competitive. And I hope by the end of spring we'll be able to say, okay, here's probably the guys you will see as the starting five. But I believe you have 6, 7, 8 guys that are all going to be pushing to be the top 5.
And then with the 2 sport guys, Jordan Faison and Drake Bowen, how will you work practices, the blue gold game, and so forth with those 2?
Yeah, we've gotten together our sports performance staff and the sports performance staffs of the other sports and kind of formulated a plan. If the demands on Jordan, for instance, for this weekend's game is going to be something where it's going to be detrimental to him to practice, we'll hold him out. He is full in lacrosse right now, and our job and our challenge is to continuously get him better, right? It's not that lacrosse has to give him to us. We want to. He's all in on lacrosse. He is going to be doing lacrosse this entire spring, and so we have to make sure we structure our practice and the things we ask Jordan to do around the demands that he has to do in lacrosse. And the same thing goes for Drake. I think the demands on Drake, he's required to do less physically than Jordan. So you'll see Drake obviously having more football workouts and in practice. But it's just what your body's required to do in lacrosse versus football.
Next question will be from Pete Byrne, third row on your left.
I'll go and ask about the quarterbacks. Your early impressions on Leonard, and as you guys make your decision over the course of spring and probably into camp, how much weight will you put on what you see in reps now versus what you've seen on film over the years?
Again, today was the first practice. I've been impressed with Riley in terms of how he really dove all in to learn the new playbook and that entire room. Like what I've seen is that entire room is really, spent a lot of time in the meeting room trying to figure out the new offense, the scheme. Obviously you have a opinion based off what you've seen in the past with Steve, with Riley, with all those guys. But you still have to make it based off a subjective competition, right? And I want to make sure that we have dialogue, opinions, but we also utilize the facts, right? The different criteria that we're going to use in terms of having a quarterback competition, very similar to what we did last year. And so it will play itself out, right? And the best thing about it is we're in no rush to name a starter. And I think the competition in that room is going to make everybody better.
What did you see from some of your transfer wideouts today?
They can run, right? And I think I saw more deep balls caught, in this practice than I've seen in a long time. And so it was really good to see, right? And it's going to be great for both sides. The speed, the ability to throw the ball downfield is going to obviously be great for our offense, but it's going to be a great challenge for our DBs. And so, I can't wait to see this competition as we go throughout the spring.
Front row on your right, Pete Sampson.
Marcus, how do you make just sort of the reps work with 4 quarterbacks? Because, usually when you have 3, even the third guy's just getting a couple at the end. Today we saw all 4 get a lot of work. How do you make that work so it serves them but also serves the offense?
Yeah, I think you just it takes time to really script it out, right? And you don't look at who's with the 1s, 2s, and 3s as much as you look for the total amount of plays and how you can make sure that each person is getting the total amount of plays that they need so you can make an opinion as a coach and evaluation. So that to me is what's most important is yes, you'll rotate who's with the 1s at certain times, but let's evaluate the plays and really not exactly what group they're in, and that's kind of how we've been doing it.
Bo Collins, Rod Hurd, just in terms of when they'll be available for you, just sort of that process is a bit unique.
Yeah, they're both still enrolled at their previous institutions, and so they're only allowed to observe meetings and observe practice, but they're both living here.
Front row on your left, Jack Sobel.
Hey, Marcus. Now that you've had a chance to see Lauren Lando go through winter conditioning, spring camp started, what are some of the early things you've seen from him? What are some of the early returns there?
Yeah. Again, I am no strength and conditioning professional. Squat versus lunge versus leg press versus bench. But I am, observing the buy-in. And that's what I've been most pleased with, the buy-in from our players to his leadership, the way he's training them. And that, to me, is impressive, right? To be able to gain that trust and buy-in from your players in such a short period of time. And he's been a great partner, right? And our sports performance team and our meetings, the ability to utilize some of his ideas and previous experiences has been huge in terms of making sure we are doing what we feel is best for the player, the individual, to perform at the level they have to perform.
And then regarding Benjamin Morrison, I think last year in fall camp, the message to him was, don't get complacent, keep improving after his great freshman year. Now that he's entering his junior year, what's the message for him? What are the next steps in his development?
The exact same thing, right, is that the challenge I have for myself and everybody in our program is we're chasing being the best version of ourselves. That's going to make Notre Dame football better, right, is that Benjamin Morrison is chasing to be the best version of Benjamin Morrison, and Marcus Freeman is doing the same thing. And so what's the goal for the spring is that you get as close as you can to being the best version of yourself, which in turn will help us, as we say, reach our full potential. So it's still the same challenge.
Front row on your right, John Bryce.
Hey, Marcus. First, I'm surprised you're not an expert on working out as much as you
Yeah.
exercise. Come on. No, I wanted to ask first about Marty. What makes him a fit to help Mick there in the secondary, and maybe what does that say about some of the analysts you have that can, I would guess, help Marty with some of his coordinator duties?
Yeah. Marty's coached on the defense side of the ball before, and this is something I've had a conversation with Marty about as he continues to grow in the coaching profession. Special teams, he's good, right? Now, how can he continue to challenge himself and add some defensive responsibilities? And I thought this is the perfect way to do that. We had talked before, we made Max the full-time linebackers coach. Last year, we're like, okay, maybe it's you help with linebackers a little bit more. But right now it's perfect for him to help with the DBs. And so it's a credit to him, and he's buying in, and he's in those defensive meetings, and he's doing a good job. Also credit to Jesse Smith, who is our special teams analyst, to be able to help Coach Biaggi prepare for practice and those type of things is really crucial. But all hands are on deck for special teams. Like 90% of our coaches are involved with making sure we are helping out with special teams.
And then last thing for me, you mentioned Chad's promotion. He's a guy that's been here with you since you first arrived as defensive coordinator. Dre's been here now, I guess, 3 or 4 years. With the way things keep changing in the portal with roster management, NIL, how important is consistency, especially in kind of those two spots, to be able to keep Chad and elevate Dre?
Yeah, consistency is so important, but it's even more important when it's good. When it's good, right? And Chad's elite at what he does, and the opportunity for him to lead our entire personnel staff is, to me, something that's earned, and he's earned that right, and he's doing a great job. And as I said, he does such a good job at what he does. That's not just connecting with recruits, but planning, leading a group of people and evaluations. And Dre I speak about Dre in the same light. Yeah, he's done a great job in his role. So it's very important, the consistency, but more importantly, that we have the right people and people that can do that role and perform it at a high level.
Second row on your left, Tyler James.
Marcus, what have you liked about the way Mike Denbrock has hit the ground running, getting ready for the spring, and then implementing it in today's first practice?
Yeah, sometimes I forget how competitive he is, man. And I probably said that when I first talked about him, like he's a competitive dude. And, I heard him out there today chirping and get back to, they threw a long ball and I hear, get back to the huddle, get used to that. That's what we do. And I'm like, okay, I like that, man. And, he's a leader. He's a leader, and I remember being in his first unit meeting, and he said something to the group that just stuck with me, is that, he went through his whole resume and where he's coached and where he's been. And, LSU's a great place, right? And they have the same goals that Notre Dame has. And he said the reason why he chose to come back to Notre Dame was the students, the athletes, and being able to coach those guys. And that meant a lot for me to hear, and I'm sure it meant a lot for our players to hear. And so I'm excited to have him as the leader of our offense and excited to see what is going to happen with this offense.
I also wanted to ask about Devin Ford's move to safety. What informed that decision, and what does it say about him that, I'm sure there's somewhere in college football he could get carries as a running back for him to stay at Notre Dame and try himself somewhere else?
Yeah, he Devin has become an elite special teams player. And part of the conversations we had were, if this is going to be your role, your first role, your primary role being a 4-phase elite special teamer, tackling is something that you got to continue to improve on. And so he knew the opportunities at running back weren't going to be as great as maybe trying to improve his opportunities as a special teamer and moving to the defense side of the ball. So he's only been there a couple days. Obviously, this was the first practice. And so it'll be interesting to see. He's athletic and he can run. I'm interested to see how he progresses over 15 practices.
Third row on your right, Tim Priester.
Coach, last year the nickel position was pretty clear cut with Thomas Harper, and I think a little bit the year before as well with Tariq Bracy. I don't think we saw a whole lot of Jordan Clark today. In addition to him, who do you see as the top candidates for that position?
Yeah, Jordan will be the one going in. In spring, we held him out a little bit. He had some quad soreness. We wanted to be smart with what we asked him to do today. We always know C. Lou can go and play nickel, and we have that in our minds that, hey, if something happens, we need C. Lou to play nickel. He can play nickel. Right now, he's playing corner for us and doing a lot of different things for our defense. Micah Bell's a guy that's been getting some reps at nickel. And then we'll see after that. Those, to me, are the guys in the top of my head between Jordan Clark, C. Lou, Micah Bell. I don't know if I'm missing anybody. That's on it. Was anybody else out there? You didn't see anybody else? Good. So now I got it right. Yeah.
And Tosh Baker started a couple games a couple years ago. Really big guy with great feet coming out of high school. Yeah. Where do you see him evolving? And I would imagine that a guy like Orlando, he would really benefit from a coach like that and his approach.
Yeah, yeah. Tosh is really, as I think back to the last 2 years, has been that third tackle behind Joe and Blake. And you're talking about two potential first rounders, right? And it's difficult, but he is stayed firm and stayed true to Notre Dame, and now he's getting his opportunity. So I'm so excited to see what he does with this opportunity where, hey, go run with it, man. It's a competition, but this is your opportunity to show that you can be the starter for this offense at tackle.
Front row on your left, Brian Driscoll.
Coach, when you look at this, like the stages of the offseason and you go into the spring, are there certain things that you guys are kind of focusing on as like the team growth? Like we want to make sure coming out of spring that we are establishing this or this or this during the spring?
Yeah, I think for all three phases, it can be a little different, right? With defensively, you're going to year 3 of the same system, right? You have some new guys, but I think they're at a level that is, how do we continue to iron out the details of this defense? Offensively, you're implementing a brand new offense, a new quarterback, right, and some new wideouts, and you're still figuring out some offensive line play. And so it's to me, okay, how do we progress, right, as we go through the spring for 15 practices, but also as we get to the fall. And so those to me are a little bit different. In special teams, there's going to be some consistency in that. And so, day one, I just don't want it to be, as I told him today, it's really not winner or loser. We'll have the opportunity to have some winner and loser days where you can truly evaluate where your team is at certain points of spring and fall camp. But again, I think we have a mature team. We have a very intelligent team, and we have an unbelievable coaching staff. And so I look at this as a journey to Texas A&M, right? And that it's just a progression. I just want to consistently see this group get better and better.
You talk about a lot of young guys. Obviously, linebackers, a place where there's a lot of new faces, so to speak, from guys that are in the starting lineup. What are some of your expectations, or what are you looking to see, and where are guys right now in their development when you look like Drake and Jalen Sneed, Jaden Osbury, those guys?
Yeah, I remember seeing Sneed in the stretch line today, and it's his third spring, right? And so here we go. It's your time. Let's go. And Drake has done a really good job in terms of when he did from his freshman year to now progressing to his spring of a sophomore year. Jaden Osbury has been impressive just in his winter workouts. I expect to see something big out of him this spring. Kingston, you know what? Every once in a while you can see a freshman and say, okay, he's going to have a chance early, and I can see that with Kingston. He's going to have a chance. We got Kahanu back. And I'm just trying to go through the room. It's a good room. It's a young room, probably unproven. You've seen Jack Kaiser's been here longer than probably anybody. Well, maybe some of you guys, but, but Kaiser's been here a long time. But, Sneed's played a little bit. It's his opportunity. Let's go. Let's see what you can do. Drake Bowen and some of those guys. I believe in the talent in that room. It's going to be exciting to see him actually go out there and do it.
Third row on your right, Tim O'Malley.
Coach, one of the guys not here, Rod Hurd, kind of opens up some opportunity at safety. We saw Luke Talich out there a little and Adon Schuler. What's their progression been like? And is Talich under consideration for scholarship? Has he been moved to scholarship?
He is on scholarship. Luke Talich is on scholarship. It was something we discussed when we were even recruiting him. He was a scholarship guy, had many scholarship offers, and in our conversations was like, hey, man, you come to Notre Dame, I can see you being a scholarship guy even after 1 year. And it was actually one semester, and we put him on scholarship. And so he's earned that right. He'll be in the competition with Adon and whenever Rod gets here. And so it's good, though. It's good. Those two guys will make each other better. I think for them, you lose a coach, right, with Coach O'Leary, and now you have to learn a new coach. It's the same scheme, but a different coaching style. And so I've seen them in Coach Mickens' offense, his offense a lot. And so I'm excited for him.
Just follow up on two of the guys you mentioned out for the spring, Mookum's injury and Logan Thomas's injury.
Mookum had labrum, had a labrum surgery. He's 2 months ago. And then Logan Thomas had a labrum that he happened in high school. And so he's 2.5 months post-surgery.
Front row on your left, Tyler Horka.
Coach, getting back to the linebackers, it looked like we saw a lot of more 4-3 today, and I'm curious, with JD and Maris, those two guys playing as much as they did, not having them anymore, and You mentioned you have a lot at linebacker, but you may not really know what you have for sure yet. Is that kind of like a trial by error thing where you throw those guys out there all at the same time, see what they're good at, see where they can play, and just what is kind of the makeup of this linebacker core without those two guys?
Yeah, I think what you saw today was a result of a couple of different things. One, what we're trying to, you go through install. So practice 1, we're installing these specific defenses. Practice 2, these specific things. And so seeing 3 backers was part of the day 1 install. With Clark being out, it also takes another guy at nickel, so you put a guy in base on the field. But again, I think you could see us being a base team if we needed to, and having 3 linebackers on the field. We have to be multiple. At the end of the day, you got to put your best players on the field, right? And if that ends up being 3 backers, it's going to be 3 backers, and if that ends up being similar to what we did last year, it'll be that.
And then another question about replacing someone who played a lot of football here. Cam Hart going out. It looks like Mickey and Gray are really going to compete for that other job opposite of Morrison. What do you see in those 2 guys, and just like how good can they be, maybe if it is kind of a tandem thing that they do this year?
Yeah, you saw the same competition for the bowl game, where those 2 guys are competing. Both of them played in the bowl game. They'll compete now. Obviously, somebody has to become a starter, but you're going to see them both play. I mean, that's the reality of what you're asked to do defensively. You have to be able to rotate some corners and keep fresh guys in there. And so they'll make each other better. Those 2 guys are ultra competitive. I think their skill sets can be different at certain times, but the competitive spirit that they have, I think it's going to be a great competition.
Second row on your left, Mike Berardino.
Gabriel Rubio's status, what can you tell us about what led to him, being at home this spring, and how confident are you you'll have him back and when?
Yeah, he's not currently on the roster, but I expect him back in the summer.
Can you elaborate at all on what led to that?
No.
All right. And then Dylan McCullough also has a job title adjustment.
Yes.
What led to that? What exactly will that entail, the way it's set up here, and how will that make you even more efficient?
Yeah, Dylan is a guy that even last year I had a conversation with him about associate head coach, and he's been involved in some of my head coaching meetings. Just that's his next step, right, is that Dylan McCullough is going to be a head coach somewhere. And I want to help him in as many ways as I can, right? And it's not saying I have the answers, it's saying come be a part of this, and he can take some things off of my plate. And so, he's earned the right. I think he's ready to be a head coach, and when the opportunity comes, I think he'll be a heck of a head coach.
Final question this morning, third row on your left, Allison Hayes.
Hi, I just wanted you to elaborate a little bit on C.J. Carr and just how he looked today as his very first practice as a freshman.
Yeah, I didn't really get a chance to evaluate him a whole bunch yet. We'll go see it on film, but it's funny because in the stretch lines, I'm like, man, this isn't really your first spring because he was here for the bowl game. And so you can tell he has a level of comfort. He has some natural leadership ability. He's got a strong arm, and he's doing a great job in terms of processing the things he's asked to do. So, he's going to have his own competition, right, between, Kenny and CJ and, Steve and Riley. Those kind of are the competitions right now. And so, again, it's unique because there is we call it a healthy competition in that room. They're making each other better. It's not like, hey, me versus you. I don't like, it's we are going to make each other better, and it's going to be good. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. That was a long one today.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.